Minions have spawned.
You are safe with Brom. No time for worrying. My friend! You can always trust Brom. Sometimes Icy Heart just needs warm smile. If you have problem, you come to me first.
Silver of the moon.
Like they hurt.
An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
The darker the night, brighter the sun. Let us go. Like red. Time for a snack. Let us go. Even heaviest doors be open. Bram is on the job. Let's heal for you. Mother always said, You are safe. Around next corner.
An ally has been slain.
No sneaking up on Rome this time. Sometimes Icy Heart just needs warm smile. If you have problems, the darker the night, the brighter the stars. The darker the night, the brighter the stars.
An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain.
I wonder what's around next corner.
Enemy killing spree.
Shield becomes Ram is on the job. If you Sometimes I life is good. Always said, don't lose.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Trust.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Even heavier. You can always trust Brom. Right, my grand! Brom is on the job. The darker the night, the brighter the star. I said, don't lose. Life is good, no? I wonder what's around next corner.
Your turret has been destroyed. Has been destroyed. Ally has been slain. Double kill. Your turret has been destroyed.
You are safe with Brom. Sometimes I just need to work.
Has been slain. been slain.
Sometimes icy heart just needs one smile. You can always trust Brom. You have problems, come to me. I wonder what's around next corner. Mother always said, don't lose. The darker the night, brighter the stars.
An enemy is legendary. Your inhibitor is ready soon. An ally has been slain. An enemy is legendary.
You are safe with Brom.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Each of us will have one template. I'm a sole proprietorship, this is my equity. This is my building. So I'm running a business here, right? I'm not doing this as some type of non-profit or charity work. So what am I going to do with this 10 million of deposits? Well, I told people that they can take the money out. I'm taking their money in safekeeping. If they put it in and then one day they can't get their mony back, they're going to be very suspicious of it. So I have to keep some of the money set aside. There's a lot, this would be amongst 3,000 or 4,000 people. On any given day, not everyone, or hopefully not everyone. But I need to keep some cash reserves in case people want them. I need to keep some of that 10 million. So let me say I want to keep 10% of it in cash. So I'm going to keep $1 million in cash. And then I have $9 million left that I can hopefully put to productive use. And what I do with that $9 million is I loan it out to people who have really good projects or investments. So $9 million in loans. That's an asset, right? I give that money to someone else. They owe me $9 million. I'm essentially borrowing $10 million, keeping $1 million aside, and paying out $9 million in loans. And they could be a bunch of different projects. They could be 100. I'm not just giving $9 million to one person. I'm diversifying across a bunch of different projects. So the natural question is, how am I making money? Well, these loans, I'm hopefully putting them to build irrigation ditches or build factories or do whatever, something that actually is an investment that creates more value than it needed to start up. So I can actually charge interest, and that interest should be a cut of that value that's being created. So let's say that I charge 10% on this money. So I'm charging 10%. And just for the sake of it, let's say I invest really well and no one defaults. I'm the first bank, so I get all of the best investments. So I'm getting 10%. And for their money, these people, not only do they get to keep their money in this nice, safe deposit, but I'm also paying them 5%. I'm also paying them 5%. So how much money do I make in a year? Well, I'm making 10% on this $9 million. So what is that? That's $900,000 a year. $900,000 a year I'm bringing in. And how much am I paying out every year? Well, 5% of 10 million, I'm paying out $500,000. So interest income, $900,000. Interest expense, $500,000. That nets me $400,000. And let's say I pay another, $100,000 for salaries and for security guards and all of that. So essentially, I'm netting $300,000. So I'm netting $300,000. I'll do that in a little more detail in the next video. But if you look at it big picture, I put $1 million in, and every year I'm making $300,000 by providing the service, by matching up the savings with good investments. And everyone benefits. The pie is getting bigger because these are real investments that are going to benefit my village. And of course, these people benefit because they get safekeeping for their account, and their money is actually growing. They're actually participating in this capital investment. Anyway, see you in the next video. Let's go over that example that I gave in the last video where I'm in this village and I start a bank to kind of match up savers with investment opportunities. And I actually want to do it, one, to hit the point home a little bit more about how a bank makes money. And I actually think this example is a very good instrument to actually teach you about a new financial statement that we really haven't, I don't think I've covered it all much, and that's the income statement. So far you're familiar with balance sheets, hopefully. And now we'll learn what an income statement is. So let's say that this is my balance sheet at the beginning of my first year of operation, at the beginning of year one. And let me see if I can recreate it. I think I had said that I had originally capitalized this company with $1 million. That was coming from my savings, or maybe I went to 10 of my friends and they gave me $100,000 each. But we don't care about how that equity was raised. All we know is that we had $1 million. And then I had bought a building that I could put money in that looks really safe and people would feel secure putting that money into that building. So let's say I had $1 million of real estate, $1 million of real estate. And then the rest of the village saw this nice big fortress I had constructed, and so they gave me at least part of their savings as deposits, saying that, wow, that's a safer place to put my money than in my mattress or buried under in my backyard. And this Bank of Sal says that he's going to give me some interest, and he seems to be a fairly reputable fellow in our village. So let's deposit some of our savings with him. So I get $10 million of deposits. And of course I told them that, look, this isn't a loan, although it kind of is. I'm not borrowing this money from you. You guys can use this money whenever you need it. And because of that, I need to set some of this deposits aside in case someone comes the next day and says, oh, I gave you that $1 yesterday. I actually need that $1 now to, I don't know, pay for my teeth cleaning or something. So I need to set aside some of it. And I figure, well, if I set aside 10% of it, that's the most that anyone would ever come in one day, unless there's some type of strange run on the bank. So I'm going to set aside 10% of it as reserves. So it's cash reserves. So let's say $1 million of cash.
Seems you left your brave pants at home.
Of cash. If I thought for some reason that there's a higher likelihood of everyone coming at once for their money, or a large percentage of the people coming at once, I'd want larger reserves. And then finally, I'm left with what? $9 million, right? They gave me 10. I put one aside. I'm left with $9 million to loan out. This is productive capital, and when I say capital, that's just a claim on someone's goods and services that can be used to construct or perform something that adds value, that creates more value than was used. So that's $9 million of loans. And I know I always keep talking in those terms, and I do that because I think in our society today we get so fixated with the points, and that's money or the dollar bills, that we often forget what the points represent. The points or the money represents claims on goods and services. I've actually I've met people who become obsessed with like on Khan Academy, I get emails from people who want to get extra points on their account, and they're obsessed with it, and it's just a number. But what's important is, what does a point system really do for you? And in money, those points represent future claims on goods and services. But anyway, so this is how my balance sheet looked at the beginning of year one. And I said, well, I'm going to be getting in 10% on these loans, and let's say that I'm very good and none of them default, and I really do get my 10%. And I said that I'm going to pay these people out 5%. Right? So what happens over the course of that year? So how much interest income am I going to get? Interest income. Interest income. Let's call that interest interest income. So 9 million times 10%, I'm going to get $900,000. $900,000. And then what's my interest expense? I probably should have done this in green, but I think it's my interest expense. Interest expense. Well, I have to pay out 5% on the 10 million, so it's $500,000. I'll put it as a negative number just so you know it's an expense. Although since I said it's an expense, you might want to put it as a positive number, but that's just an accounting convention, but I think you get the idea. So let me put it as minus $500,000. And then to operate this bank, you know, it had this building, it had to be cleaned, it has to be maintained, I had to hire bank tellers and security guards, and I had to buy my security guards machine guns. So I have expenses above and beyond just this little interest transaction that's going on. So let's say that I have salaries. So I have some other expenses. Salaries, let's say I have to pay, I don't know, let's say it's minus 50K a year in salaries that I have to pay. And let's say upkeep of the building, you have to paint it every now and then. Upkeep. I have to install new marble tiles every now and then to make, because I have to project this impression of the shining, impenetrable fortress. So upkeep is actually a big expense of me, so I spend 50K on upkeep. And so what am I left with? See, 900 minus 500 is 400, minus another 100, so I'm left with 300,000. But even though this is a primitive village that I live in, it's not so primitive that it does not have taxes. And so this is my pre-tax income. My cell phone is ringing, but I'll ignore it. Actually, it's very hard to ignore. But anyway, this is my pre-tax income. But my local village government says, no, well, you know, you have to pay for the army and all of the other services that we provide. So they take 30%. So income taxes. Income tax. Income tax. They take, let's say they take 1/3. So they take 100K. And so what am I going to be left with? What is my net income? Net income. 300 minus 100, I'm left with 200K. Fair enough. And just so you know, this is the income statement, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how all of these match up. So let me draw a big, nice